When we meet with people, the number one thing is that we build out a plan to make sure that they do have a secure retirement financially. And then after that, it's like we want people to enjoy their fruits of their labor, and we encourage people to spend money in retirement.
Or why is it so important to plan for this fun and not just feel like I'm just trying to survive?
I guess my motto is that life is meant to be lived, quite frankly.
What is one thing that our listeners could do this week to help them feel more free?
Take a half an hour and just go somewhere quiet and just think. Think of one thing, if something were to happen to you, that you definitely want to do, and then put a timeline on it. Welcome back to another episode of Retire and Thrive, where we help you live your life with purpose, wealth, and confidence.
I'm Kamie and this is Dan, and this week's podcast is an exciting one because we are to that point where we're going to focus on living the life you've planned for. And we have two stories that could be you. Dan's going to share some of his client experiences with us today, and we're really just going to focus on getting to that point of retirement, and you've planned for it, and you're ready to rock and roll, and now you can live freely.
It's awesome. I think we talked 2 episodes ago about debt. Then
which can be scary.
Yeah. Then last week we talked about, how do you turn things on to an income? And this episode, we're going to kind of tie all of that together. So, but before I do that, I have to ask, what's going on in your world? Are you still hitting the
golfing.
links? Are you still hitting the links?
It's crazy how time flies in the summer. Yes, I play a ton of golf all summer. But this summer, I've actually had like every milestone birthday in my extended family. So I've been back for my grandpa's 90th birthday. My other grandpa turns 85 coming up here. My dad turns 60. So I live close enough where I'm able to take the 5-hour drive or whatever. My sister just had her 4th baby. So I've been all over for family, which is great. It's great to see everyone, but it does get into the golf game, Dan.
I don't know why, but I feel like you're using an excuse of why your golf game maybe isn't up to par, no pun intended.
No excuse. No excuse. Golf is still fine. I just feel like I haven't been out as much. And then my best friend who I normally play with, he and his wife had a baby. So, you and I need to play more, I think.
So you're not making excuses then.
I'm not making excuses.
So how is your game, by the way?
It's fine. Yeah. So if you're a golfer, you know that there's the USGA handicap, and I never actually get that. But the guy from the golf course actually just texted me. He's getting mine set up so I can play in a few more tournaments in the fall. So looking forward to that. More tournaments.
Is it too personal for us to ask?
I don't know what my handicap is.
Oh, okay.
And I play from all the different tees. So I told you that I competed in the club championship, won the women's side. I shot 2 over for that. And that's probably pretty standard from those tees. But you back me up a little bit, I'm probably shooting around 80. I don't know.
Wow. So you won the club championship.
Yes. On your course.
Well, don't.
Why weren't you competing in it, Dan? I didn't see you out there.
Don't. I know not to bet against you. That's for sure. It must be a side hustle that you take people's money for
No,
golf.
I don't. I don't take anybody's money. I don't drink when I'm golfing. I just enjoy the outdoors. Try not to 3-putt.
Yeah.
Which it happens.
Yeah.
Definitely happened in the club championship.
Right.
But never good when you're on the green for eagle and then you 3-putt for par. It's never a good feeling, Dan.
It's challenging, as you know, in Minnesota. We had a window to enjoy it. And, we're not too far away from the fall leaves, which can be frustrating too when you get that perfect drive down the fairway and you can't find your ball because it's under leaves.
Hey, you know what I did this weekend, though? For anyone who's ever been to the Midwest, northern Iowa, I went down the upper Iowa River tubing. Yeah. It's beautiful.
Really?
It is so pretty because it's bluff country, and it is so pretty. Did that this last weekend. Went camping and checked out the scenery in Iowa.
Wow.
Seriously. I posted about it. If you follow me on social media or TikTok, because it's impressive. I had people guess where I was. I mean, I got Arkansas, Missouri, Denver, Colorado. Like, people didn't know.
People didn't know it was Iowa.
It's Iowa.
If I didn't know any better, you would be like putting in a plug for the state of Iowa.
Yes, I'm a big proponent of Iowa. No, it was only an hour drive from Rochester. So I was like, this is a cool spot.
Awesome.
A hidden gem, I would say. But anyway.
I think we need to talk about money. I think that's what people are here for, is the money.
Let's talk money.
But congratulations on the club championship.
Thank you. Yeah. Appreciate it. Next year, you need to show up and play.
All right.
So let's talk about, finally, living the life you've planned. And Dan, let's touch on a couple stories. You wrote a book. And you have some good stories in there about folks trying to navigate retirement and finding that enjoyment in it.
Yeah. And I think, as we wrap up this last episode of this lesson, you only have freedom when your cash flows freely,
Mm-hmm.
that the whole lesson is about cash flow. And I think this kind of ties back into lesson number 1, which is enjoying the fruits of your labor.
Yeah. So let's touch on some experiences. There's a Disney story.
Yeah, there's a Disney story. And that's actually a true story. And it's a very, very cool story. And it's a little bit personal to me because similar in this story, I've taken my kids to Disney before too.
Mm-hmm.
But this is a case where we had a client of ours that had retired and worked for a local company for many, many, many years. And he had 3 kids, and I think it was 7 grandchildren. And, just had plenty of income coming in, had plenty of assets. And, we started talking about leaving money to the kids because at that point, when we were talking about this, he was in his early 70s, had some health challenges. And so we started having these discussions about leaving the kids money and potentially maybe the grandkids money. And so we kind of started breaking things down. And he said, it'd be nice for me to be able to see my kids and grandkids actually enjoy it instead of when I'm gone and they're not going to be able to enjoy it. And I said, well, what does enjoying it mean? And I said, does that mean cutting a check to each of them for $5,000 or $10,000? And he's like, yeah, I don't know if that's really it or not. And so again, this was quite a while ago, but we started brainstorming. And I said, well, why don't you think of it more as an experience? I mean, maybe that's something that's more relatable. And he and his wife, they called me maybe a week or 2 later, and they said they had met with a travel agent, and they ended up booking a trip to Disney. And it was Disney World down in Florida. But it was more than that. He had taken his kids and the grandkids, and they all stayed in the same complex, the same hotel. They were on Disney proper. And he said it was just a blast because they could take, I've never stayed on Disney, but you can take a tram back and forth. So some of the kids they had grandkids that were much younger. And so they had to get back for their naps. And there was other ones that wanted to stay out later. And so he said it was just an unbelievable experience. And again, it was a way for them knowing that they weren't going to really use this money. And yes, it would be great to leave the kids a bunch of money. But, for him and his wife, it was more important to actually have that experience.
Mm-hmm. And for you working with him, what was it like for you to be able to see that joy in him? I imagine that was a very joyful situation for him to finally realize this is what I want to do and then actually to do it and follow through with it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that because when they came back, I mean, he was still glowing. And
he had that Disney glow.
The Disney glow. Not putting in a plug for Disney here like you were with Iowa, but no,
Iowa needs its help, okay?
Yeah, there you go. But he literally got out his phone and he was going through. And so we basically got together to kind of review his stuff just a couple of months later. And I wanted to, of course, talk about his numbers and where he's at. And he's just like, let me show you what happened. And so we probably spent 15 minutes just talking about the experience.
Yeah.
And when you see somebody that works that hard for that many years and the level of excitement, I mean, at that time I'd worked with him for 10 years and I had never seen that level of excitement from him. And it was just irreplaceable.
Yeah. And for you dealing with many folks who are heading into retirement, why is it so important to plan for this fun and not just feel like I'm just trying to survive? It's more of that emotional side. Why is that so important?
I guess my motto is that life is meant to be lived, quite frankly. And I know that's maybe a little bit of a corny phrase, but if you're so focused on the dollars and the cents and you forget to live, and, I don't want to go down this path today, but we've got tragedy all around us. And it's, whether it's family members that have gotten sick or whether, personally people have had issues with their health. But I feel like when we meet with people, the number one thing is that we build out a plan to make sure that they do have a secure retirement financially. And then after that, it's like we want people to enjoy their fruits of their labor, tying it back to the lesson number 1. And we encourage people to spend money in retirement because at the end of the day, we don't know how long that we're going to be around. I know that, your age is a lot different than my age, but I've seen I've seen it vicariously through people. And it's just fun, as I explained, told the story about the people with Disney and what that meant to them. I mean, it's priceless. You just can't put a price tag on it. And oftentimes we do get caught up in the whole financial side. And I think it's important to do financial checkups, just no different than getting your wellness check at your doctor or your dentist. But get your checkup, and it's okay to spend that money because, you've worked hard and that money does serve a purpose. And whether it's to create memories or whether it's to help the next generation, maybe you had gotten help from your parents and you want to pay it forward. That's really the whole purpose, is live life to the fullest, because we just don't know.
Yeah. And sometimes being stuck in that survival mode can also impact those around you.
Mm-hmm.
It can be unenjoyable for nearly everyone who is surrounded by it. Yeah. So let's talk about Vegas. What's this story?
Yeah, so
we talked about two stories that could be you. So we have Disney and now we have Vegas.
Right. And this is a totally different scenario.
Okay.
And interesting. This was actually a client of mine in his mid-50s. And so his kids were quite a bit younger, no grandkids. And he had 3 boys and 1 daughter. And this was kind of his dream. And it wasn't anything, Kamie, that we really planned for. But we just had conversation. He just said, it'd be sure nice to take my boys golfing sometime. And I said, well, what are you looking at? And he said, well, we just want to take a golf trip and, hop on a plane, go somewhere nice. And I said, why don't you go explore, kind of get an idea of what that looks like. And I think his kids at the time were in their late 20s, early 30s. And he came back in a couple of weeks and he said, I think it's going to cost us about $15,000. And I said, oh, really? Where are you going to go? And he said, we're going to Vegas. And I said, what, are you going to pay for their craps or their blackjack or what? He's like, no. He said, we're going to pay for golf. And he says, for all of us to have our own rooms and the flights. And he says, we're going to stay at nice places in the casinos. But he said, it's just something that I'd love to do. And his daughter went with his wife and they did a spa day. They actually went over to Wisconsin and did kind of a spa weekend. But again, it means different things to different people. But for him, it was important to take his 3 boys that loved to golf. And it was just the 4 of them. And I think they were there for like 3 days. So they golfed 3 different days, obviously spent some time in the casinos. I don't know if they'd taken any shows or not. But again, it was a very similar story, but at a different stage. They were much younger.
Yeah.
But for him, it was important to try to reconnect with his kids because, again, oftentimes as parents, we get caught up in our careers and we're working hard. Kids are in sports and their activities. And in this particular case, they were able to take a step back and just say, let's enjoy some of the fruits of our labor and let's go to Vegas. Let's do some really nice golf. And same kind of similar story. He came back and was just kind of glowing.
Yeah. It's that feel. It's different. And you can tell it, I'm sure, in your clients.
Yeah.
That's for sure. So for our listeners right now, Dan, final question. We'll wrap this up here. What is one thing that our listeners could do this week to help them feel more free?
I think this, that's a very short window, but I would take a look at it and maybe on a little bit bigger scale. I'm a big bucket list guy.
You like those buckets.
Yeah.
First, it started with the Tupperware, if you remember that episode.
Good memory.
Move on to buckets. Yeah.
Good memory. Then we had the 3 buckets last episode. This is your bucket list. And, there was a kind of a comedy bucket list movie, if you remember that. But,
I do.
But yeah, I think, and we do encourage people to have their bucket lists or their wish list.
Sure.
And so for me, if there's one takeaway from this episode, I would say, take a half an hour and just go somewhere quiet and just think, based on however old you are, if you're in your 30s or if you're in your 60s or 70s, and just ask yourself the question, if there's one thing, if something tragic happened to me in the next 2 weeks, if there's one thing that I could do, what would it be? And oftentimes it doesn't even have to be financially related. It could be, I've always wanted to take this trip down to, southern Minnesota or northern Iowa, like you were talking about at the beginning of the show. It doesn't always have to be about money. I mean, it can be, but oftentimes he'll just need encouragement to do those things because I'll get to that next year. I'll get to it next year. And then sometimes, they're not able to do that. So I think if I could relay one message from this episode, it would be, think of one thing, if something were to happen to you that you definitely want to do, and then put a timeline on it. Whatever that timeline looks like. It might be 2 weeks or it might be 2 months or maybe it's in the next year. And, assuming you've got resources, if it's something expensive, just do it.
Yeah. Good advice. And not to bring up Iowa again, but this could relate to people of any age. Because me personally, I did want to go to Iowa and see the Upper Iowa River because it's so beautiful. I'd seen pictures. And then my other spot on the list was Duluth. I want to get up there because I just have been putting it off. Duluth is a nice place in Minnesota. If you've ever been to Minnesota, Duluth is a pretty spot and I want to get up there too. So just 2 simple things to write down and hopefully get to them. I got Iowa crossed off. So for you, maybe that's Vegas with family. Maybe that's Disney with family and friends, or maybe that's going somewhere special with your wife, but some good advice and something you can easily do this week, some things that are important to you. So the goal of this, go ahead.
Not to get personal, but do you have a bucket list?
No, I don't. I've done a lot of stuff. So I'm like, my bucket list needs to be more focused on like getting my money in order. It's decently in order, but I've traveled. I've been to Iceland. I've been to Ireland. I've been to Alaska.
Didn't know that.
Yes. Yeah. So my buckets are full. I focus on money.
Good for you.
Put more money in the bucket, less trips. But for me personally, everyone's different, of course. Right now, all I want to do is maybe get to Duluth this fall.
Good for you.
That's all I want to do.
Preferably before November.
Yes. Definitely before. I kind of want to hit that spot when the leaves are beautiful, but it's also very busy up there at that time. Also, there's some great golf up north, but we'll see if I get any of that in.
I feel like everything centers back around golf with you, Kamie.
It does. Not in the winter, but I guess then you can go vacation and golf. But thanks so much again for joining us today. Anything else you wanted to touch on, Dan?
I think that's it, Kamie.
A fun episode today just to talk about living the life you've planned. And this actually wraps up our lesson 3, which is our tongue twister. I only have freedom when my cash flows freely. And this really puts a nice bow on that.
Yeah. And I'll look forward to next episode where we'll jump into lesson 4. And not that we're going to necessarily make this a cliffhanger, but tune in next week where we jump into lesson number 4.
Okay, we are making it a cliffhanger. Thanks so much for joining us. You can like and subscribe to our channel. We put out a new podcast every week.